Bryce Laspisa disappeared under bizarre circumstances last fall. To this day, it is still a mystery.
On the morning of August 30th, 2013, a chilling mystery began to unfold, one that remains unsolved to this day. 19-year-old Bryce David Laspisa disappeared without a trace. His car was later found overturned near Castaic Lake in California, its rear window shattered from the inside. His wallet, phone, and laptop were still there. But Bryce himself was gone. No witnesses, no answers. Bryce was born on April 30th, 1994, and spent most of his early life in Illinois, before relocating with his parents, Karen and Michael Laspisa, to Laguna Niguel, California. As their only child, he was known for being creative, friendly, and full of life. He had recently started his sophomore year at Sierra College in Rocklin, where he was studying industrial and graphic design. He had a steady relationship with his girlfriend Kim Sly, and by all appearances, his life was on a positive path. But in the final days leading up to his disappearance, something shifted. Those close to Bryce began noticing unusual behavior. He was reportedly drinking more than usual and using Vyvanse, a stimulant medication that, when misused, can lead to insomnia, anxiety, and paranoia. Friends described him as increasingly distant, restless, and not quite himself, changes that would soon become deeply concerning. On August 27th, Bryce told Kim he wanted to break up, saying she'd be better off without him. He also began giving away personal belongings, including his Xbox and a pair of diamond earrings his mother had given him. His friends grew alarmed, suspecting he was struggling emotionally. That night, he visited his friend Sean Dixon, where they talked late into the night. When Sean went to bed, Bryce stayed up drinking, pacing, and acting erratically. The next morning, Sean called Karen, worried about her son's mental state. When she spoke to Bryce, he insisted everything was fine. She believed him. That same day, Bryce got into his 2003 Toyota Highlander and began driving south, heading toward his parents' home, hundreds of miles away. But the trip that should have taken 7 hours turned into a 2-day mystery. At 11:30 p.m. on August 28th, Bryce told his mother he was leaving college for home. By early morning, he was 350 miles south, near Buttonwillow, a small town along Interstate 5. There, he ran out of gas. A roadside assistance worker named Christian came to help and delivered 3 gallons of fuel. Bryce thanked him and seemed calm. But several hours later, he was still in the same spot. Karen, worried, called Christian again and asked him to check on Bryce. When Christian returned, Bryce was sitting motionless in his car, staring out the windshield. He had been there for nearly 9 hours. He told Christian he was fine and planned to continue home soon. When Karen spoke to him, Bryce's voice was steady. He declined her offer to find a hotel and said he'd drive home that night. At Tuloam on August 30th, a highway camera captured Bryce's Highlander exiting near Castaic Lake, about 90 miles north of his parents' house. It was the last confirmed sighting of him. Hours later, around 5:30 am, a worker spotted tire tracks leading down an embankment near the lake. At the bottom was Bryce's overturned car, the rear window kicked out from inside, his wallet, phone, and laptop left behind. There was no blood, no struggle, and no sign of Bryce. Search dogs followed his scent from the crash site to a nearby truck stop, and then to the edge of Castaic Lake's dam, where the trail suddenly ended. Dive teams searched the lake. Helicopters scanned the hills. Volunteers combed the area for days. But there was nothing. No footprints, no clothing, no body. It was as if Bryce had vanished into thin air. Police examined the crash scene and determined the car had accelerated down the embankment intentionally. Yet they couldn't say why. Investigators found no signs of foul play. The working theory was that Bryce may have been suffering from emotional distress, possibly influenced by alcohol and stimulants, leading him to abandon his car in confusion. His parents refused to believe he was gone. Karen and Michael insisted Bryce was alive somewhere, possibly disoriented or suffering from memory loss. They described their last conversation, Bryce's calm, polite tone, and his reassurance that he would see them soon, as something that gave them hope. But hope began to fade as days turned into weeks. Authorities explored several theories. One suggested that Bryce may have experienced a psychotic episode brought on by exhaustion, substance use, or emotional turmoil, causing him to act irrationally and wander away. Another theory was that he had sustained a head injury in the crash, resulting in amnesia. If so, he could have walked away without realizing who he was. This idea gained traction after a few unconfirmed sightings were reported in nearby towns. Others speculated that Bryce had chosen to disappear intentionally, staging the crash to start a new life. They pointed to his odd behavior in the days prior, giving away possessions, breaking up with his girlfriend, and his cryptic messages to friends, as signs of premeditation. But investigators found no evidence of planning, no withdrawals from his bank accounts, and no indication he'd prepared to leave permanently. His parents continued searching, distributing flyers, appearing on television, and working with missing persons organizations. They kept his case alive on social media, hoping someone would recognize him. Each year on the anniversary of his disappearance, they renew their plea for information.
A former Naperville man attending college in California has been missing since the end of last summer. Bryce Laspisa disappeared under bizarre circumstances last fall. To this day, it is still a mystery. Tonight, his mother is back in the Chicago area for the first time on her own. And she spoke to CBS 2's Brad Edwards in this original report.
It's a best friend reunion in Terminal 3.
I am Bryce Laspisa's mom.
Best friends and their baggage.
Some days are better than others.
Her son Bryce missing for 8 months. 15,000 now follow on Facebook.
They had airplanes, they had helicopters, they had divers.
On the upper levels.
I seem to miss Bryce more being back here.
For that, she has her best friend.
We both live with uncertainty.
A best friend with stage 4 cancer.
This is my best friend that goes to sleep every night and doesn't know where her son is.
The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department has kept the investigation open, but there have been no major developments. No physical evidence has surfaced since that morning in 2013. Bryce's phone records and laptop showed nothing suspicious. No suicide notes, no farewell messages, no signs of criminal involvement. The strange part of Bryce's story is how calm and deliberate he seemed right up until the moment he vanished. Witnesses who interacted with him, his friends, the roadside worker, his mother, all said he was polite, coherent, and not in visible distress. Yet something inside him had changed. His long pauses, his aimless driving, and his late-night reflections point to a deep internal struggle no one could see. The terrain around Castaic Lake is rough and vast, a mix of steep hills, thick brush, and rugged trails. Even with multiple search operations, it's possible Bryce wandered off into a secluded area and was never found. Others believe someone might have picked him up after the crash, intentionally or unknowingly, and that Bryce began a new life elsewhere. Bryce Laspisa was 19 years old when he disappeared.
We still have people send in just tips as well as some photographs, but there's never been any confirmed actual sighting of Bryce. If Bryce is still alive out there, that he doesn't know who he is. I mean, because I truly don't believe that Bryce is willingly not contacting me. It's been 3 years of a nightmare.
But 3 years later,
he left behind everything he owned, his identification, his electronics, his money, and a family forever haunted by unanswered questions. Over a decade later, the mystery of Bryce's disappearance remains unsolved. His parents still hope for answers, even if that answer brings heartbreak. For them, the hardest part is not knowing, living every day in limbo between hope and grief. Bryce's story is one that reminds us how fragile the line between ordinary life and the unknown can be. One moment, you're on the road home. The next, you've disappeared without a trace. Somewhere out there, perhaps, the truth of what happened to Bryce still waits to be found.